How to Vibe Code Responsibly with a little help from MCPs with Rizel Scarlett. Hey, everybody. How are we doing today?
Hello.
Hi there, Rizel. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm good. That intro was so cool. We were talking about radio voices. That kind of sounded like a little radio intro.
See, the funny part is that when my wife hears that voice, she's like, "Come on, you're doing the Hugh Brownback voice." What are you talking about, honey? Come on, let's get in the car.
It's also your business time voice.
You know what? That my business time voice is normal Chris voice, and then I put on airs for like the intro, but then we go back into normal silliness.
Yeah.
Rizel Scarlett, welcome to the show. You and I have been talking for a long time, back and forth about getting you on V Brown Bag, the cool things that you're doing. You're a local, which we just found out. You're in the Boston area along with me, part of the GSD team. Yay! Let's do this. So how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm ready to talk about vibe coding and MCPs and chat with y'all.
Yeah. It is turning into this whole thing now, that vibe coding. We'll get into it. I've been fascinated by it, but also slightly terrified. Damien, how are you doing? What's up with you in Texas?
Oh man. Texas things, I guess. It's hot. It's summertime already. Every year, everyone that you talk to is like, I can't believe it's summer already. Like, y'all, it's been doing this. This is how it works, right? Like
every year.
Yeah, every year. Fortunately, we still have a little bit of rain. We're not in the long hot yet. That's later in the summer, but
the hellish part. So I just got my first heat wave advisory on my phone like yesterday for the area, and whenever I get my first heat wave advisory, I think about all the poor souls in Florida and Texas and Arizona, and my heart just goes out to y'all. So when you're ready to come up here, let me know.
Yeah,
we can hang out on the porch.
I was in Houston last weekend. We took a little family trip to see Meow Wolf and the Houston Space Center.
I love
it.
Meow Wolf.
It was pretty awesome. It was so freaking humid. It was wild. I just standing outside, I could just feel the sweat. It was so gross. I'm glad I don't live in Houston.
I thought that was going to be the start of a dad joke. I was going to be like, how humid was it, Damien? No, it was so...
Sadly, I don't know any funny dad joke responses to that. It was humid, the 3 showers a day kind of humid.
I love the heat.
Wow.
I thought we were going in a positive direction about the heat. I was like, yay. Oh, no, they hate it.
I mean, heat is cool. Humidity, not so much.
Not so much. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I lived in Mobile, Alabama for 10 years as I was going to university. And I got used to the heat while I was down there.
Yeah.
But then I left and I moved to New England, and then my body changed and got used to the snow or whatever. And now when I go down south, I'm like, oh my God, I can't do it. I'm heading down to visit with my family in Tennessee for 4th of July. And I'm just like, it's all Under Armour clothing and just stay inside for as long as humanly possible. And then go out and barbecue quickly.
Tell me you listen to that Arrested Development song, Tennessee, because you just have to.
Of course I have.
Yeah, Tennessee.
Yeah. Tennessee. Oh, jeez. Rizel, we were getting into what you do right when Damien said, hey, we're supposed to be live. So we turned on live. And my question was, you are a DevRel tech lead at Block. What does that mean, and what does Block do?
Yeah, I'm kind of still learning what that means. I'm new to tech leadership, but really I'm focused on the strategy of how my team kind of approaches things. We're focused right now on an AI agent called Goose, hence my interest in vibe coding and MCPs right now. So I'm really focused on how do we approach the open source community? How do we support them? Our documentation, our just meetups, every single thing under the hood of like open source DevRel. And then what is Block? I talk about this in my talk, but it's a company of companies. So like some people are like, I've never heard of that. Maybe you have, but it's like made up of like Cash App, Square, Afterpay, Tidal, and a whole bunch of other smaller companies and big companies.
I looked it up as I was, doing research for the show and looking into your background and everything. Not because I was stalking you, but for the show, I promise. And I was like, oh, that's fascinating because it is tied into the payment stuff, but there's a bunch of other things that's happening with it. And if you're going to talk about it in the talk, then that's cool too. So, Damien, what is your exposure with vibe coding? Have you coded with Vibe yet?
I haven't done the kind of, I think maybe more of the traditional vibe coding approach. I have used the copilots, right? GitHub Copilot. I've used Perplexity. I've used Claude. I've done a little bit of MCP stuff with Claude Desktop. But none of that was like just starting from scratch. It was, help me solve this problem. How can this be improved? Right. I haven't really gone from the top. Just let's do something wild that I've never written before. Right. So it was always just kind of a helper thing, not something that was maybe driving the overall development. And I was just giving, pointers to it. So
Gotcha.
I don't know if that's vibe coding,
AI assisted coding. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I guess so. I'm sure just like anything else, it's probably a spectrum, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Well, I have a ton of questions, but folks are coming in and let's go ahead and do that. So there's going to be a lot of questions, and I think that probably some of them are going to get answered in the presentation, but then I'm also going to have like a raft of other things. So I don't want to like get the cart before the horse. So let me throw up your add to stage, remove, add to stage. Come on, Chris. There we go. All right. Let's get into it a little bit, and then we will filter in the questions from the audience and ask our own questions too, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I'll pop back in. Well, not like I'm leaving, but I'll pop back in to see if you guys have questions like midway in between. Okay. So y'all, we're talking about vibe coding responsibly, and we kind of did my intro a little bit, but just redoing it. My name is Rizel Scarlett. I'm a tech lead for the open source DevRel team at Block, and you might have interfaced with Block before and you just might not be familiar with the name. It's a company of many different companies like Cash App, Tidal, Afterpay, Square, led by Jack Dorsey. He's really about like financial empowerment in different ways. For example, for Tidal, he's like about financial empowerment for musical artists. Now, one thing I believe is that developers just want to have fun. For me, there was a time where the internet felt really magical. I remember like going to the library to create characters on the Doll Palace. I don't know if anyone remembers this, or this is like just a fever dream for me. Or at home, for some reason, I'd like run home and spend time like changing fonts with word art. That's when I didn't have internet. So this was what was keeping me entertained. But as the industry, but as I grew up, the industry did too, right? So we've kind of shifted away from like these animated marquees and glittery cursors. And now grown-up me has started using like ones and zeros to build reliable systems for banking, insurance, healthcare, and all these other types of companies. Now, for me, there is pride in that, but it is harder to justify doing something just because it's fun. So that's why like I've been kind of tapping into my inner childhood, and I've used my company's product Goose, which is an open source AI agent, to build crazy stuff. Like in this example, I built a UI that reacts to users' emotions. So like for me, sometimes I want to like write every line of code, and sometimes I just want like a really quick dopamine hit of seeing like my idea go from like a vision to execution. So like in my head, I was like, oh, my daughter's crying so much. She has so many emotions. I was like, what if I can like have the UI react to that? I was just doing it for fun. And I think other developers may relate to this feeling too. And it's partly why AI agents and vibe coding have become so popular, because we're kind of rekindling this sense of like playful experimentation that's like motivating our minds to solve other harder problems more creatively. So like I even read this article by Tim O'Reilly, and he like quotes Kent Beck and Nicola Bollock, and they're basically like sharing the same enthusiasm. They're like, this is the most fun I've ever had. It really brought back the joy of programming for them. And for me, like I've just like fully embraced this, even to the point that I started this live stream called The Great Goose Off, where I have like two different people compete against each other using the AI agent, and I like prompt them to like create silly apps. Like I'm like, make a login form that like no one can log into, or buttons that run away from your cursor. And again, like I'm not the only one that's really embracing this. Here's like an example I saw that was maybe more refined than my like UI example. This guy basically made like GTA but for taxis. So this is me playing it, and I essentially like I hit a bystander. I just wanted to see what would happen. So they get like flat and stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool that he just vibe coded all of these details. So here's what my agenda is going to be. We're going to define what vibe coding is. We're going to talk about what model context protocol is for people who don't know, and how it enables vibe coding. And then we'll dive into like the best practices for vibe coding responsibly, and why you might even want to do that. So for folks who don't know, like if you don't know, it's okay, but vibe coding's been popular for a couple of months now. And this term was coined by Andrej Karpathy, who was the former senior director of AI at Tesla. And he describes it as letting go of control and just trusting the AI to build and reacting to what it creates. He takes it all the way. I don't do as much as him, but he basically says like he even forgets that code exists, right? He just talks it like literally he's using something called super whisper, using his voice, and he's like, oh, decrease the padding on the sidebar by half, just because he's too lazy to even find it. He accepts all, if there's error messages, he just tells AI like fix the error message. He just keeps saying that over and over and over again in a loop, and he just waits until the error goes away. And for him, it's good for like a throwaway project. Something that's just amusing for him, and something that's just fun, kind of like that like emotion detector UI app that I built. I also think that vibe coding represents a shift in our industry, because it democratizes coding, right? It's enabling web developers to create video games with like Unity, or designers and product managers to prototype like full stack applications, or even business owners and some kids are using it to transform their visions to like full functional products. And I think this is like also representing a shift in AI's capabilities. I remember in 2021, I joined GitHub, and like I was introduced to GitHub Copilot, and it was like autocomplete on steroids, because it was like literally like feeling like it was reading our brains as we typed. And then more things came out like ChatGPT, which gave this UI that even like your grandma could interact with AI. Because for me, before all of this, AI seemed like something that like only like PhD people did, that were like studying machine learning, and it all felt like really sci-fi-ish to me. So it was really cool that it kind of came down to the point like, oh, anyone can kind of use ChatGPT or Claude or GitHub Copilot chat. And you can use it to like program or write or brainstorm. But there was a problem with all of those tools like GitHub Copilot and ChatGPT and stuff like that, right? The issue was we had to copy and paste context. We had to let the AI tools know what was happening in the different applications, so it'll be able to help us best. For example, like let's say you're trying to debug some code, it doesn't have access to your code base, so now you're like copying over little code snippets or your whole code file, and you're like, help me with this, and it doesn't know your whole code base, and it can get annoying. And then we started, at least for me, I started to hear of this idea of AI agents, agentic AIs. They're like, oh, these tools, you don't need to give them context. Oh, did you say something?
No, I was laughing.
Oh.
He was laughing at the meme.
Let me
Let
in.
me in.
These AI tools that you didn't need to give a lot of context for, they would just like take action on your behalf. But for me, at the time when people were talking about it, it felt like a distant promise, even though like some companies were coming out with AI agents, but they were closed source. So they didn't really like accomplish the goal, in my opinion. Like it was like they had limited access or only certain access to certain apps, limited context. So I'm like, this just feels the same as ChatGPT. How is it an AI agent that's doing everything for me? And this to me led to a lot of like AI tools competing against each other. And then we started embracing open source, which is my favorite thing. And it opened the ecosystem, enabling different AI systems to connect with any tool. So at the end of 2024, Anthropic announced that they were working with companies like Block to build an open standard called Model Context Protocol, or MCP for short. Everybody's been talking about it on the internet, and for all developers, not everybody in the world, but all developers at least have. And for those who aren't familiar, it's basically like when people say an open protocol, is basically like a publicly available vendor neutral set of rules that define how like systems communicate with each other. And so MCP defines how AI tools communicate with other systems. So I like to think of it like an API, but for AI agents. So it'll like connect AI agents to our everyday tools, like for example, Figma. And this is what makes the vibe coding possible, because it fits right into your workflow. AI agents now have that more autonomy and more context and more connection to these tools. So it's easy for us to just use natural language and prompt and have the AI agent just do stuff, go off and do stuff with little human intervention, some, but not all. Here's the example. Like my coworker, she doesn't know how to use Blender, but she basically prompted an AI agent with this prompt, like build a cozy campfire scene, put some logs in the middle, add a glowing fireball. And it was like, okay, it made this for her. It's not like the most amazing thing ever, but it's a better foundation than what she would have had before, since there's this huge learning curve to Blender. Maybe I should pause. I'll pause. Any thoughts or questions or anything?
I was expecting a better outcome on Blender, honestly.
Yeah, I was like, it's not crazy, but okay. When I've tried it, I just made a gray circle, and that stressed me out. I was like, I'm done.
No questions.
No question.
Well, actually, I do have a question. And if this is getting into your talk a little bit, just feel free to tell me to be quiet. But what I've seen with MCPs, what I've seen with MCP so far is so for example, something that we did at work was do a little MCP thing that said, here's the API. You can query the API for our product with these commands, et cetera, right? But there was no real like understanding behind that. It was just like a fancy API call, right? Like I could have done the same thing from the command line to our product and gotten the same results, except I got those results within Claude Desktop. So my question is, like, where do you see like the future of MCP going to where there's more of an understanding, right?
Okay, let me see if I understood what you meant. You're saying you use the MCP server and you're like, I could have just done this myself rather than prompt it, right?
Yeah. So for example, my product is a private cloud product. I can say, show me the VMs, show me the networks, show me, right? But what I can't say is why is this VM not connecting to the internet? Because the MCP stuff that we've built isn't smart enough to understand the connectivity between the things that it's returning, right? And so that to me is where I would see more like more than just kind of a silly fun thing you can do with technology, but actually useful, where you say, this is what I'm asking about. These, this is kind of the model and how those things are connected, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
So
I guess
it's more of a question about like MCP as an idea and how it's progressing.
I'm gonna say I think that's a limitation of the MCP server you guys built. Not
Okay.
trying to.
So it's no, that's fine. That's fine. Honestly, I think our CTO vibe coded it on a weekend. So I
A
was
lot of
like,
people
well,
have vibe
this is
coded
fun,
MCP
but
servers. Because okay, I mean, I have different. I don't have right now as a developer advocate. I'm not playing around in production or doing high level stuff as much. Like I'm only like updating our documentation site. So
Right.
maybe I just have a different experience. But oftentimes, like here's how I use like my MCP client and MCP server is my team comes out with or the developer team, they come out with like a new version of Goose like every single week, like, and it's a lot of features at once. So I'll kind of like open up the repo inside of that AI agent and I'll be like, explain to me like how these certain features are working, so I'll be able to document it. So for me, I found that as useful and helpful. And I think the future of MCP servers, I think first off, people are going to learn how to like build MCP servers better, I guess. But like within our company, people are using our MCP client and different MCP servers across the board. It's not just engineers. Like the HR team or the legal team is using it, like executive assistants are using it and stuff like that, just to help them to brainstorm, to help them to put stuff together. They have an MCP server. Like we have a lot of in-house servers, like one for Looker, SQL, and all of that. So that's how it's been working for us. And I think let me see if like this cloud example works for you. I'm not too into DevOps, but I was hanging out with some folks from Confluent who made like an Apache Kafka MCP server. And they're saying like it'll help with them not being a bottleneck. I don't know how like Apache Kafka topics and stuff like that work, but they're saying like instead of like one individual person having to be the admin to get this data streaming stuff working, they can offload it to other people within their teams and stuff like that. So that's one example. I don't know if that my ramble answered anything.
it did. And I guess maybe kind of the crux of my question was, what are your thoughts on how the protocol itself is developing over time in order to enable more intelligent understanding of the information that's being presented, right?
Yeah.
So, just it was my dumb question.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think
Where's
I did
the
it.
fail horn I requested, Chris Williams.
It was a good question. It was a good question. I think it's getting there. It's really in its infancy. They've been focusing on.
We were playing around with the soundboard before the show, and I specifically requested a fail horn for when I messed things up.
Way louder than I thought it was going to be. I apologize.
That was great.
Sorry, Rizel. Chris, you shouldn't have. How dare you?
That was for you. I don't know what you're talking about.
I know, but you interrupted her.
No, that was funny. I don't remember what I was saying.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
I'll keep moving forward. Oh, I said it was in its infancy, and they've been focusing on security as one thing, and they're continuing to build up on it. Okay, so cool. The other example I had, is a little bit of a more technical example, and this is like an MCP server called Container Use, and it's basically used to like run multiple isolated environments via an AI agent. And this basically opens the door to having like multiple agents run doing like in parallel doing background tasks. So this example is a little bit hard to follow with like no sound or whatever, but basically what's happening is they have like multiple like AI agents instances doing the same thing, and they have like one saying like, okay, create a hello world app that's red, and then the other one they said create a hello world app that's blue, but they're not interacting or interfering with each other because it's completely isolated environments. I hope that made sense. I kind of threw myself off by taking us by stopping. And so for folks who aren't like familiar with the protocol itself, it's really simple. It's nothing too fancy. Basically, it's made up of hosts, clients, and servers. So the host is like the main AI agent or application that starts and controls the session. So that might be Claude Desktop, that might be Goose that acts as a host. So maybe you want to do something as simple as create a calendar invite. The host decides what to do do, connects to a calendar service and starts issuing commands. Then you have the client, which is like the communication layer inside the host. It connects to a specific MCP server and it handles tool calls and receiving responses. It's not, I used to think it was like this separate tool or platform, but it's part of the host, and it basically just connects the AI agent to external tools. And then you have the MCP server, which you've heard us talk about, and this is like an external program that exposes the functionality to agents via tools or function calls, right? And so each server basically defines this suite of tools that anyone can use. So a Google Calendar MCP server might expose a create event tool, a get events, update event, delete event, kind of like Damien was saying. It just feels like an API, but it's the API for the AI agent, so it can understand things a little bit better. And I think because it's open source and fairly straightforward, many companies and community members have built their own MCP servers, and they're getting excited that it's a fun technology to just get involved with and build with. So basically, when connected, these tools become basically available to the host during a session, so the AI agent can take real actions against systems. Now, if you are like maybe more beginner and you heard me say that and you're like, girl, I don't know what you said, I would think of it this way. I've been like describing it as like the movie Ratatouille. If you haven't seen it, basically you have Remy, he's a rat chef. He has a lot of know-how, but he can't obviously be in the kitchen because he's a rat. And then you have Linguini, who's a kitchen worker, but he has full access, but very little cooking skill. And together they have like this symbiotic relationship where Remy basically hides under Linguini's hat and guides him on what tools to use and when. And similarly, AI agents use an LLM under the hood. So the LLM is like Remy. It's full of knowledge and reasoning, but has no hands-on access. Whereas the AI agent or even the MCP host like Linguini, it can take action, but it might need some guidance. So the LLM is doing reasoning and planning while that MCP host or AI agent is doing the orchestration and execution. Okay, so feels like I've been talking for a long time, but basically,
I absolutely love the fact that you use. I mean, first off, when you said if you haven't seen Ratatouille, I'm like, who out there has not seen Ratatouille? Flog yourself right now.
Right.
But that's a fantastic analogy. That is a really well thought out analogy for the relationship between the two systems.
Thank you. I appreciate that. One time I was in a podcast and then I said that and then I was like, dang, that's kind of smart. I need to like keep using that and refine it.
No, I love it.
Okay. So just showing people and obviously this is the one I'm most familiar with because my company made it and I use it all the time. It's called Goose and it follows the MCP architecture. So basically I can use Goose to do something like use like PostgreSQL, and instead of like writing out queries by hand, I can ask Goose in natural language. Like maybe I can have it like run a CTE for us and return the results. So I'm gonna do that really quickly, and then we'll go into like the dark side and like things that people can do to like improve, to be responsible. So I don't know how clear you guys can see this. I'll make it even bigger. But I have a PostgreSQL database. It's really simple, but I can say something as simple as like, can you search my database for any student whose current GPA is higher than their average current grade level? Tell me their name, how much they exceed the grade, average GPA, et cetera. And then let's see it happen.
Are you sharing this?
I'm not sharing.
No, ma'am.
We see the screen that says codename Goose, and then we see the little CLI on top of it.
Let me stop sharing. Thank you for telling me that.
No, it's okay.
Enter. That's fine because this didn't even work because the MCP server was not connected. So that was saving me. Okay.
The demo gods.
Okay. Instead, now we can see it. I'm gonna turn on the MCP server. I forgot to do that. So I can enable and disable the ones I want to use, and it failed. Why?
Live demos.
Ugh.
That's
Oh, I
how we
see
do.
why. Dang it.
Seriously,
Don't-
I have like gone over a demo from front to back so many times in test, and then as soon as I try to do it like live, it falls apart. And I'm like, why? I did
Yeah.
it 20 times successfully. That's just
Yeah, I
Same.
literally prepared. I see why it happened. I don't know how this reverted. It didn't have my connection string. I'm just gonna put it in, and it's not like a private one anyways. Or anything. Let's see. Ugh, annoying. It's okay. This allows people to see how it works behind the scenes.
Mhm.
So putting this in, that's my connection string, saving the changes, and now I can enable the MCP server. Okay, great. Now, now I can ask the question very quickly, basically saying like all the stuff I said, search my database for students and like just analyze their GPAs and stuff like that. So basically, right now we're seeing it do tool calls where it's talking back and forth with the LLM. And it's like, oh, what should I do, LLM? And the LLM's like, oh, maybe you should write this query. It could be a select one. Just to, actually it wants to like understand the table first, and it's understanding the structure. Then it's like, okay, now we can do this this CTE. And now it came back with like results for me. It even like structured it in a little table. It's like Emma Johnson, she exceeds the grade average by like 0.10. She's in grade 11. And we got John Smith, who exceeds the average by 0.08. Okay. So that's just like seeing it in action for folks who never probably seen it before. All right.
Nice.
Now, oh, yeah.
Oh, I said nice. That's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, it is
Cool.
very cool.
Cool. Thanks. And then now we move into the dark side and the issues with vibe coding and like some of the things we can do to be responsible. So while it's like fun and it has lots of creative risks, creative freedom, there are a lot of like significant risk, right? So sometimes we're like Icarus, we like vibe code too close to the sun. One time I was like using Goose and I was like, oh yeah, I built something really cool. And I was like, can you update this dependency? And it changed the whole app, including the CSS. I didn't double check the PR or anything. And that's happened to a lot of people. I've seen people on Twitter and stuff like that saying like, oh my God, like I've checked in code with security vulnerabilities, or I'm checking in spaghetti code. I'm losing weeks or months of code due to a lack of version control or exposing environment variables. So I know most people define vibe coding as this purely chaotic development with no rules, but I redefined it for myself as flowing with AI while like protecting your project, your team, and your future self. So the way I've used Boost,
Protecting your future self.
future self doesn't want to be stressed out. So basically, here's some tips on like being more responsible, or at least how I've been using it to be more responsible. First off, version controls, right? There's many moments where AI agents, they just change like a whole bunch of files. They like get super eager and they change like 20 files. And that's just too many lines for you to like control Z. So for me, I commit after every single change that either I make or the AI agent makes. That way I have some clear recovery points. I have clear diffs. And if something goes like awry, I can easily like just roll back and I don't have to start from scratch or lose all my work. The other thing, I encourage people to ask questions and think critically. Just because you're vibe coding doesn't mean you need to turn your brain off. Ask your AI agent, like, why did you make this change? Is this secure? How are we handling secrets? Do you think this is the best way to structure the database? To me, like, I'm pushing my agent to explain itself, but it also helps me to learn the product better and learn more along the way. But it also makes the AI agent, usually it's like, oh wait, yeah, you're right, I did make a mistake. So don't just take everything that it gives you. The other thing is protecting sensitive files. I'm not sure if other AI agents have this or not. I haven't like tapped into them as much, but Goose supports this thing called Goose ignore files. It's similar to Git ignore files, and it basically defines which files and folders that Goose should not read or modify or interact with, which is super helpful to make sure it doesn't touch like environment variables or any like like test fixtures or snapshots or like infrastructure and deployment configurations. And I just keep everything all in one. And then the other thing is, it's important, especially if companies are using this at the enterprise level. I know a lot of companies are like, now I'm encouraging every employee to use AI as much as possible, or use this MCP server, MCP client. Be careful on which ones you introduce, because MCP servers can introduce like security risk, especially if compromised. I learned about this term called slop squatting, and it's basically a attack technique where bad actors register domains or create malicious packages with names that are like spelled like slightly different from like legitimate sites or packages. So what my company did, because we want everyone to use AI tools, this particular AI agent tool across the board, even if they're like in HR. So what we done is we implemented something called an allow list, and that like prevents spoofs from calling any MCP servers that we haven't vetted that are as safe, or we haven't built in-house ourselves. Because also we're like a fintech, so we have like data I think it's called data safety levels or something like that, where we're like, we can't let data go, certain levels of PII go out to AI and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
then,
we had Mike Fiedler on the show. He runs safety for PyPI.org, the Python organization. And he was talking about slop squatting, where, you know, folks have basically written bad Python stuff that they try to publish that an AI made up, right? And so like that is an active thing that is going on, right?
right.
It's wild. It's wild to me, the amount of time that people spend on just being a-holes.
Right. Like, why did you make this?
Right. The world is better without it.
That's so true. All right, and just have a few more tips of only 3. Basically the other is like choosing the right LLM is also helpful when you want to do like responsible vibe coding, because not all LLMs are built the same. Different LLMs play nice with different agents. Like for me, I like using Claude Sonnet 3.5 and GPT 4.0 because I usually do a lot of work that goes around like summarization, and they're good with supporting like tool calls and stuff like that. But when you use maybe a model that's lower performing, they're more likely to hallucinate or misunderstand your goals, and that can, to me, lead to disaster. And then second to last is choosing the right mode. A lot of AI agents have this now, where you can switch between like your AI agent going autonomous and just going crazy, doing everything it needs to do, like having that full autonomy. But sometimes if you're like, oh, I prefer to have that controller in this situation, I need to, you can like choose a mode where you need to like approve or deny some of the commands it was going to create. And then you can also like just go into a chat only mode. I know Cursor has this and a couple others. So for me, I always switch when I'm like, oh, I might be doing something a little crazy. Let me just see what Goose or whatever AI agent I'm using wants to do before I have it go on and make all of those calls. And then my last one is using basically rules or hints. So Cursor has something called Cursor rules. Goose has something called Goose hints. And this is where you will like provide some additional context about your project. So maybe sometimes I want to tell the AI agent, like, I only want to use TypeScript, or here's the coding standards that we use here, or here's the architecture or the security practices. That way, the AI agent is able to follow and the standards or the styles that your code base has, and it'll just make the experience much better for you. And I will end quickly by saying, vibe coding is not wrong. There's room to code creatively without sacrificing quality or security. And I think it marks a new chapter in how we build, and it opens the door for everyone. But I think experienced developers have a responsibility to define what smart and safe vibe coding looks like, rather than like on the internet. Sometimes we're just like, oh, go vibe code, it's so cool. Like, I think we need to tell like maybe less experienced people, like, here's some of the boundaries and things that you should look out for before you vibe code. That's it.
Nice.
Awesome.
Questions?
Move this back here. So many questions. We're going to get into this now.
Hopefully I have answers.
Okay. No, these aren't we don't do gotcha questions. This is a family friendly environment.
Okay.
I love all the recommendations. They make perfect sense to somebody like me, but I think that part of vibe coding comes with this presupposition. So when you say vibe code responsibly, there are a lot of folks that are trying to get into it, that are like before beginners, like they're like one of the things that makes me cringe when I see it in the wild is folks like, oh, I don't know a lick of code, but my 7-year-old just created this fintech app. I'm like, no, that didn't happen. Because there's so much like, you can vibe code effectively. I can vibe code somewhat effectively. Damien can vibe code effectively, but that's because we have this background in architecture. We have this background in security. We understand role-based access controls and zero trust, and there's a baseline that where's the line, I guess, is what I'm asking. At what point would you say to somebody, oh no, you do not need to vibe code. You need to get to the basics and figure stuff out before you accidentally put your credit card information into your vibe coded app that you did over the weekend on Nana's laptop, versus like the super experienced person that might not necessarily need. I mean, it's a great booster of productivity for experienced folks. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, because it can help you get that first Blender fire pit going, so that you can then take the logs and move them around where you want them to move them around.
Yeah.
Where's the line in your opinion?
Yeah, in my opinion, that's a good question. Okay, I do think it's probably more for experienced folks, like how Andre is just like, oh, I vibe code. Like, obviously he's very experienced. I think when it comes to people who have less experience, I think they should do it for fun and not for like, oh, I'm going to turn this into like you said, I built this fintech. Okay, that was just for fun. Don't put that out there. Don't let anybody
don't put money in there. Don't get seed funding, because that's going to happen. Some idiot VC is going to give you money for this. Wait a minute. What? Hold on. I got a new idea.
Yes.
I think.
What are we doing, Chris?
I think maybe folks who are newer to code could use it to learn, right? Just like use it as a back and forth, like brainstorming, like, oh, what, like, how would you create a web page? Oh, you would use like HTML or something like that. Like my younger sister does that. She's not like a 5-year-old or anything, but she sometimes is just like, oh, I wish I could build a game, or for some reason she wanted to make a Google Doc extension, but she's just doing it for fun. It's not like a serious thing. And then now she knows, like, oh, she's supposed to use a Google Apps script. So to me, if you're less experienced, you can use it as like a learning tool. And then if you're more experienced, like you've built stuff before, like you've worked at a company before, then you can try it for production applications. But even then, that's still risky.
Yeah.
Even then, if your diff is 1,000 lines, you stop.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, something is wrong.
Yeah.
It's funny because I mean I have like what I just described, the diff being 1,000 lines long. I've seen that. I've seen intermediate to experienced developers I'll let the agent commit the thing, and I'm just like, what are you doing? It's interesting. There's this throughout the course of like the time that I've been in technology, there's been this need for a silver bullet, and I think that's just human nature. I think humans just want something that's going to fix the things, and
marketing.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, if you could make a lot of money off of it, you're going to hype it up. So there's that too. This feels like we're in this current phase, and it's moving so fast. I mean, MCPs weren't even a thing less than
6 months ago.
6 months ago.
Yeah.
I mean, like before that, MCP was the bad guy from Tron, from the Disney movie. And when somebody first said MCP, I was like, the bad guy from Tron. They're like, no, idiot, model context protocols. I was like, it's a new thing. Great.
I don't know who was the idiot in that conversation. Right. I would say you just don't know Tron, which sounds like a them problem.
That is definitely a them problem. It really was. So it's interesting. We're in an interesting time, and that can be good or bad. Interesting is interesting
at the same time.
Simultaneously amazing and horrible.
Yes. The horrors persist, as do the wonders.
So what's next for you in this field? Like, where are you going with this next? Are you building your own MCP server? Are you making one are you worried about like access? Are you trying to figure out how to make an MCP server that has clean lines of access control, or what?
Ooh, I think I'm diving into designing good MCP servers. Kind of like what Damien said. I've built one and I was like, oh, it wasn't that good. But my teammate, they wrote like this blog post. Let me see if I could find it. And it was like talking about like how to properly design it for security. He titled it like MCP tools are like ogres with layers. I don't know. I'll put it in the private chat, but like that's one thing that I'm thinking about just in general. And then I'm curious about security a lot. Like for me, like I'm like, this is cool, but if this is going to become a thing, how are we going to make sure it's secure and can actually be adopted by people and not just for fun?
We've also been, or I've been spending some time thinking about that too. I mean, right now anybody and everybody can make an MCP server, and there's the security of the masses. Like if you subscribe to an MCP server that everybody's using, then there's a pretty good chance that you're not going to get hosed, even if you can't read the code in the GitHub repo. But there needs to be some kind of like, stamp of approval, registry format. Like, yes, this body of people has vetted this MCP server as like the thing, but nobody's going to want to put their name behind it for insurance purposes. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out like how. I'm sure somebody smart will come up with something, but I don't know what it is right now.
It would have to be something around like attestations, right? Like you could attest to a certain build, right? Like, and that can be tied back to a specific person or people, right? Like, I was going to make a stupid joke about blockchain for LLMs, but I did not. I did not want to go there.
I hate it. Yes. Yeah. Don't do that. Rizel, you were going to say something?
Oh, I was going to say, I guess people are attempting something like that. There's like a site called Glamma AI. I put in the private chat again, and they like vet if the MCP server is like secure, if it has a license, if it has good quality. Now, I don't know who's the people behind it. I went on, I think I've seen Marino in this chat, and I told him about it, and he was like, but who's vetting it? Who's Glamma? And I was like, I don't know. So that's one thing. And then I know that like there's other companies trying to come together to like create the ultimate, like the unified MCP registry. Even like GitHub and Block are like trying to work on something together. So I don't know. I guess it's who will win and who does it best, and who's brave enough to say we vetted this and we're okay putting our name on it.
And it would be nice to have like granular access or granular ingress into the tooling of the MCP server. So like, if it allows you to do a whole bunch of things, maybe have some kind of vetting process so that you can't do X, Y, and Z, but you can do A, B, and C.
Kind of like with OAuth, with different scopes on OAuth.
Yeah, exactly. It's the Wild West right now. I mean, yes, it's 6 months old, so it's naturally the Wild West. But when somebody said, "Oh, I built a financial bot that tracks stocks, and now I'm using an MCP server, and I linked it into a Fidelity account," I'm like, "You did? I'm sorry, what?"
Don't do that.
Chris is over here still like afraid to order pizza through Terraform.
Yeah, exactly. I'm very conservative when it comes to spending Chris's dollars.
I think I'm on both sides where I'm like, whoa, we're going too fast, but I'm also like, this kind of feels cool. Like how I was saying in the beginning of my talk, it kind of feels like the early 2000s, like nothing was safe. Everything was just crazy and kind of fun. And I'm enjoying the Wild Wild West, but I'm also like, wait, let's be careful. Yeah, I don't know.
So much malware in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah, there was.
I was always making my family computer have a virus. Like,
yeah. Peer-to-peer file sharing was crazy.
I still have my Napster T-shirt. It's gonna make a comeback. It is gonna make a comeback. All right. Damien, do you see any additional questions, or do you have any additional questions of your own?
Oh,
we're getting to the top of the hour. Or the bottom
yes,
of the
we
hour.
are indeed. I just looked. I don't see any, and I don't see any out on the internets as either. And I actually don't have any questions. So yeah, this has been great, Rizel. Thank you.
Yeah, super appreciate you coming on and sharing this. I mean, these are all things that make sense. I think like when it's kind of like psychology, when you're in the class and somebody says something, you're like, wait, we did a study for that. When you say it out loud, you're like, oh yeah, no, that makes total sense. So thank you for consolidating all of that. That was awesome. We're really
it was. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, y'all.
Cool. All right. Well, everybody,
giveaway, Chris.
Thank you.
It's going to be Marino. I think he's the only one that's responded.
It was Marino, and there was another person in here at the beginning, Daryl. So it's those are the only two that said something, and it's Daryl.
And Will said yo.
Oh,
right. But so what the automatic checker thingy does is here. Let me share my screen again. It's this thing in StreamYard that is a giveaway tool. And if there is somebody that engages with you in the StreamYard chat, it logs that and then adds them in as a potential contestant. So anybody that has said anything in there basically becomes a potential contestant. So our Daryl IR, congratulations, you've won. If you would just hit me up on LinkedIn or Blue Sky or however it is that you know V Brown Bag, and we will get you your $50 in AWS compute credits. So congratulations.
Yeah, congrats.
All right, folks.
Soundboard.
Yes.
I don't have a happy, and for the next show, I will have a happy, not Price is Right fail horn noise for congratulations, you've won. Oh,
I mean, it is AWS credits. I'm kidding.
Damien, you bite your tongue.
Oh, yes.
All right. On that note, everybody have a wonderful evening, and we will see you again next week. Bye.
Thanks, y'all. Bye.